For the first time in what feels like forever, Indiana Fever fans actually got something they've been asking for. Size, actual size. And the reaction online was almost confusion, cause after weeks of complaining about rebounding, interior defense, lack of length, and watching Indiana get physically bullied in certain matchups, the Fever finally made a move that people didn't immediately hate. They signed Grace VanSlooten, a real front court body, a 6'3" forward with scoring production, rebounding history, and enough size that fans immediately started joking that Indiana finally remembered basketball players are allowed to be taller than guards. And honestly, that's what made the reaction so strange. People actually liked the move. That almost never happens right now. Instead of roasting the front office, fans started saying something completely different. Are they finally listening? Because for weeks, people kept saying Indiana needed more size around Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston. More rebounding, more interior presence, more lineup flexibility. And suddenly the Fever made a move that looked suspiciously similar to what fans had been asking for all along, but before anybody could celebrate for too long, something completely weird started happening. Fans started posting screenshots claiming they were getting blocked by the Portland Fire, not arguing, not trolling, not even interacting, just blocked. And suddenly this stopped being a roster story and turned into one of the strangest fan stories of the week, because according to people posting online, some Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark fans started realizing they couldn't access Portland Fire accounts despite saying they'd never interacted with them. Then more people started saying the same thing, and immediately the theories started showing up. Are teams monitoring fan pages? Are people getting blocked for criticism? Is this random? Or is this another example of WNBA teams struggling with attention now that the spotlight is bigger than ever? And somehow, what started as a conversation about finally helping Caitlin Clark turned into a completely different question. Did Indiana finally make the move fans wanted, while another franchise created one of the weirdest PR moments of the season? And honestly, the Grace VanSlooten reaction says a lot more about Indiana than the actual signing itself, because this wasn't some superstar move. Nobody's acting like Indiana just signed an all WNBA player. That's not why fans reacted the way they did. People reacted because for once, the move actually made sense. For weeks, fans kept having the same conversation. This roster needs more size, more rebounding, more bodies in the front court, especially once Indiana starts matching up against bigger teams, and whether the front office wanted to admit it or not, people kept pointing to the exact same problem. Every time things got difficult, the roster just looked too small in certain moments. Then Grace VanSlooten shows up 6'3", solid college. Production multiple seasons averaging strong, rebounding numbers, interior, scoring actual front court depth, and suddenly fans started saying something they haven't said much lately, okay? This might actually help, but at the same time, almost nobody treated this as a finished solution. That's important because the reaction wasn't, "We're fixed." The reaction was, "Good. Now keep going." People immediately started saying Indiana still needs more, still needs length, still needs insurance, still needs bodies for matchups against bigger teams. And honestly, that's fair, because one signing doesn't suddenly solve every problem. But for the first time in a while, Fever fans looked at a move and didn't instantly ask what the front office was doing. Instead, they asked something else. Why did it take this long? And while that conversation was happening, the Portland Fire situation suddenly got even stranger. And honestly, this is where the story stopped making sense. Because while Indiana fans were finally talking about basketball, again, people suddenly started talking about being blocked by Portland for apparently no reason. At first, it sounded too weird to even take seriously. One person says they can't access the account. Okay, maybe something happened. Then another person says the same thing. Then somebody else says they never even interacted with Portland and somehow got blocked too. And suddenly people started asking a question nobody expected to ask this week. Why are fans of another team even being monitored? Now, obviously, nobody outside those accounts actually knows what happened, but perception matters. And once fans start believing criticism gets you blocked, the conversation changes fast. Because sports fans criticize everybody, that's normal. NBA fans do it, NFL fans do it, college fans definitely do it. That's part of sports culture. So the idea that people could be getting blocked without even engaging immediately made people start joking that some teams aren't ready for the attention that comes with growing popularity. And honestly, that's where this became awkward, because the WNBA is growing, attention is growing, money is growing, expectations are growing. That's good, but attention cuts both ways. You can't want bigger audiences and then act surprised when bigger audiences become louder, more opinionated, and sometimes more annoying. That comes with growth, that comes with relevance, that comes with being taken seriously, which made people online start saying something kind of funny. Indiana finally made a move fans liked, and somehow Portland ended up becoming the bigger story. And once that started happening, people began connecting the two conversations together in a way nobody expected. And honestly, the funniest part about this entire situation might be what it accidentally revealed. Because for weeks, Fever fans kept saying they wanted the front office to act, get bigger, add depth, stop pretending the roster was complete. Then Indiana finally makes a move that people mostly agree with, and fans immediately move to the next question. Okay, now what? Because one thing became obvious looking through reactions. People aren't treating Grace VanSlooten like a final answer. They're treating her like proof that roster changes were possible the whole time, proof that adding size wasn't impossible, proof that maybe the front office heard some of the criticism after all. And honestly, that's where this becomes interesting, because fan trust works both directions. When teams ignore concerns, fans get louder, but when teams finally do something fans wanted, people notice that too. That's why reactions felt almost relieved. Not because Indiana suddenly became a title favorite, but because for once the move felt logical. Meanwhile, the Portland conversation kept getting stranger because people online started making a point that had nothing to do with blocking anymore. If the league wants bigger audiences, then bigger audiences are going to come with stronger opinions. That's part of sports. Fans celebrate, fans criticize, fans overreact. That's normal, and once sports organizations start looking uncomfortable with criticism, fans notice immediately. Fair or unfair, perception becomes reality really fast online, which created this weird contrast. Indiana finally got credit for listening, Portland started getting criticism for appearing sensitive, and suddenly people started asking a bigger question. Which teams are actually ready for the attention Caitlin Clark brought into this league, and which ones still aren't used to it? But honestly, this might be the bigger takeaway nobody expected from this story. This wasn't really about Grace VanSlooten. And it probably wasn't really about Portland either. This became another example of something that keeps showing up around the WNBA right now. Fans want to feel heard, because look at how different the reactions were. Indiana makes a move people have been asking for, fans celebrate. People joke, people say, finally. People immediately start imagining how this could help Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. That's positive attention. That's what sports communities look like when people feel like feedback matters. Then compare that to the Portland conversation. People weren't even mostly angry, they were confused. That's different, because confusion spreads faster. People start filling gaps, people start creating theories, people start assuming motives, and suddenly what might have been nothing becomes a bigger PR problem than it ever needed to be. And honestly, this is probably something the whole league is learning in real time. Attention sounds great until you actually get it, because attention means scrutiny, attention means reactions, attention means people caring enough to complain. That's part of growth, and Caitlin Clark changed the scale of that overnight. Now, every move becomes content, every roster decision becomes debate, every weird social media moment becomes a story. That's the environment now, which is why Indiana's move might matter more than people think. Not because Grace VanSlooten guarantees anything, but because, for the first time in a while, fans looked at a Fever decision and said, yeah, that actually makes sense. And honestly, that might have been the biggest win of the week. And honestly, this might end up being remembered as one of the stranger WNBA weeks, for a reason nobody expected, because Indiana finally did something fans had been asking for. A headline move, not a superstar move, just a move that actually looked connected to what people were watching on the court. More size, more depth, more options. And for once, fans didn't immediately respond with frustration. They responded with something Indiana probably needed to hear. Good move, now keep going. At the same time, the Portland situation became a reminder that attention changes everything, whether the blocking claims mean nothing, whether there's another explanation, or whether fans are reading too much into it. The reaction itself matters, because sports fans notice everything, especially now, especially in this league, and once people start feeling ignored, blocked, dismissed, or unheard, The story grows way bigger than it probably should. That's what makes this whole thing interesting. One team got credit for appearing to listen, another team got criticism for appearing not too fair or unfair. That became the perception, and perception moves fast, especially when Caitlin Clark's name ends up connected to the conversation. So now the pressure shifts back to Indiana, because fans got one move they wanted. Now they're watching to see if it was the beginning, or if it was just one move to quiet the noise. Now I want to hear from you. Do you actually like the Grace VanSlooten signing? Is she a real piece that helps Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston? Or is this still nowhere near enough size for Indiana? And what do you think about the Portland situation? Random mistake? Overreaction? Or do teams need to get more comfortable with criticism now that the league is growing? Drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we've got a lot more Caitlin Clark and WNBA coverage coming. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.